Okay, so I wrote my work up here. So for this first one, I'm plugging 1 in place of n. So negative 0.03 plus 2.84 times 1 over 60.5. Now this part is just going to be a number, right? 2.84 times 1 is obviously just 2.84. Take that divided by 60.5, add it to negative 0.03. So if she has just one drink, then after 2 hours, her blood alcohol is 0.017. So remember, 0.08 is legal to drink, right? So should be fine there. Legal to drive. Did I say legal to drink? I meant legal to drive. Okay, next one. Again, we have this. We don't need to substitute anything in there because that's already been taken care of. I put 3 in for n, so you're going to multiply this, divide by 60.5, take that and add it to this term over here. We should get 0.111. So this is actually 10 times as big as that, almost. And again, think about the legal limit is 0.08. This is much higher than that. So that's 3 drinks in 2, and then waiting 2 hours, she's still not able to drive legally. Okay, last part of this question says, in this scenario, determine how many drinks she can have so that her blood alcohol content remains less than 0.08. Okay, so listen carefully to what the question is. The question is, determine how many drinks. So think about here, which variable stands for how many drinks. That's what we're trying to find, so that's the one that we will not be substituting in for. So we don't know the n this time. We want her BAC to be less than 0.08. So let's just say we're going to find out when her blood alcohol content is 0.08, and then she has to drink less than that. So we're going to substitute 0.08 here. We don't know what n is, so that stays a variable. Okay, so now, once again, what I'm looking for, which is my n, is buried over on this side. So think again about what we talked about undoing things and doing things opposite, and starting with a term that does not have n in it. So this term has my variable. Let's start with this one. Okay. Again, if it helps, draw a line. We're going to do something once on this side and once on this side. So we add 0.03 to both sides. This cancels out. I have 0.11 equals the same thing I had here. Okay, now, there are a couple different things you can do. What I would probably choose to do is to multiply. Since this thing is being divided by 60.5, I would choose to multiply it by 60.5. That will cancel that out. Kind of like when we did our units in dimensional analysis, right? Something in the numerator, something in the denominator cancels out. If we do that, we will also multiply the other side by 60.5. These would cancel out. I could multiply these. This is going to be 60.5 times 0.11, 6.655 equals 2.84n. These two are being multiplied, so I would divide. And I will get 2.34 for n. So think about, again, whenever you get an answer, think about what you were trying to find and what your units are. N is the number of drinks, right? So she can have, if she has less than 2.34 drinks, so less than 2 1/3 drinks, her blood alcohol content in that situation, after 2 hours, would be at the legal limit. Okay, so let me show you a couple places where you could have done something slightly different if you chose to. Okay, one place is here. Instead of multiplying everything by 60.5. If you'd wanted to, another thing you could do is to take these two and divide them. So we would get 0.04694, right? So let's say 0.04694 n. This would still equal 0.11, and now you could just divide both by that. Okay, that would give you the same thing. The other thing I want to mention is way back up here, sometimes people want to start right out by multiplying by 60.5, which mathematically is okay, except if I'm going to do that, that's the one situation where I would have to multiply every single term, not just once on each side. It gets a little tricky. So that's why I really don't suggest doing that unless you're super comfortable with it. So it's really better to move the term that doesn't have a variable in it by either adding or subtracting, and then deal with your multiplying or dividing. Okay, if you look at the next page, we're going to not do anything with the the making connections, but we're going on to the further applications. Just quickly to kind of recap what sort of the important math idea was in here. So in further applications, it gives us y equals negative 4x minus 2. And it asks us to do two things. It asks us to solve for y when x equals negative 3. And it asks us to solve for x when y equals negative 3. So these are the two situations that we had earlier in the lesson also. So if I'm trying to solve for x, solve for y, and I know that x equals negative 3, then I substitute negative 3 in for x. So I have negative 4 times negative 3 minus 2. So y equals 12 minus 2. Right, all of the things on the right side of this equation now are just plain numbers. There are no variables left, so I can just use my order of operations. Multiply first, then subtract. Y is going to be 10. Right, here's where I use my order of operations. It's just an expression over there, so I can just go ahead and solve it. This one, now I'm trying to solve for x when y is negative 3. So now I'm substituting in negative 3 on this side for y, and I don't have a value for x. I'm trying to find it. So this is the situation where we really do the reverse order of operations, and we think about undoing things. We undo all of those operations. So here's my negative 4x. I want to get rid of the other term, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Negative 1 equals negative 4x. Negative 4 is getting multiplied by x, so I'm going to divide by negative 4. This cancels out. X is going to equal 1/4. Okay, so just really paying attention to the difference between those two and paying attention to how we know which one we're solving for. Okay, it will tell you either just in, very clear y equals this or x equals this, or in our lesson it would say things like find the blood alcohol content when blah 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 is true. Well, if I'm finding the blood alcohol content, then b has to be the variable that stays a variable, right? So at the end my answer would be the blood alcohol content is such and such. Okay, so we said we're doing 3.7 next this week. And then we're reviewing for the Module 3 test. Keep going with your P&Ls. So 3.6 and 3.7 P&Ls are due at the end of this week. Your OCEs for these two, your OCEs for 3.3 and 3.4, which we did last week, are due this Friday. The OCEs from this week are due next week, but really you want to get them done before the test because that gives you a lot of practice. Okay, so as always, let me know if you have questions, and I will see you guys later.